It's very different from what we've done before.
I've had worse.
It's a huge undertaking.
Tell me, what do you do, James?
Lately, headhunting.
We've put all our love and passion into this game.
We lift a lot of stuff directly from the movies.
And we've been allowed to do things where I pinch myself.
This is definitely one of the most ambitious games we've made as a studio.
Brace yourself!
So if you never heard about 007 First Light, it's an original story that will allow you to embody James Bond at his beginning. And basically, you're gonna travel the world and follow this great narrative story and become the agent that you deserve to be.
Bond is immature and reckless. He's a bad influence on the other recruits who inexplicably fall victim to his charm.
We meet Bond when he's in the Royal British Navy, and he is plucked by destiny to enter the world of espionage. Something happens in the pre-title sequence that gets him on the radar of M at MI6. The MI6 that he steps into is a very data-driven, very cutting-edge organization, and she's kind of looking for that human element that can turn impossible odds around, and that's what he is.
Nobody knows what to do with him, Mom.
No, and I suspect he feels the same way.
We went back to the Fleming books, because that's where he was born, and that's where you'll find the truth of who he is. He's someone who has all the guts in the world, but it all skews young. So the guts are reckless. You know, wits it's not lived, it's more book knowledge than it's experience. But he has a lot of heart, and I think the heart is something that our version of the character probably has a little more of than the older Bond that we know, because our guy isn't yet cold. Like, he hasn't been through the ringer yet. He hasn't been hurt in the way that he'll need to be to become Bond or to become 007.
You're in the Lions then, Bond. Try not to draw attention to yourself.
I don't want to spoil too much because I want the players to discover the story. You know, is James Bond as you imagine him, a bit wild? You know, I mean, we revealed that in some of the trailers we shared over the past few months, and he's a kind of uncontrollable agent. He wants to do right, he wants to do good. Sometimes he doesn't follow the rule too much.
Well, what are we waiting for?
There's that English sang-froid. Bonne chance, James.
In the writer's room, it's been days and days and days and days of discussions and research, and some of the stuff in that writer's chat is just like, I need like a really good joke for when this happens.
Can I help you? Security. Don't mind me, just doing a quick sweep.
Aren't you a little underdressed?
Casual Friday.
At the end of the day, we had a lot of fun with it. We had ongoing weekly creative calls with the IP holders, and we've been allowed to tell the story that we wanted to tell, and we've been allowed to do things where I pinch myself. So yeah, I'm really happy with where we ended up.
You're a rare breed, Bond. I should be interested to see what you do next.
Casting for a game like that, and you need to get it right, so it's really intimidating in some way. Finding and working with Patrick Gibson actually been an extremely positive experience for us.
People who are up for that role get put through the ringer. Like, you have to throw all kinds of things at them to see how it works. Like, are they charming? Are they funny? And he was all those things, but it was only when we went really dark that he could go there and give everybody in the room goosebumps, that it's like, okay, he's the real deal. He's our man.
I believe he really enjoyed himself as well. It's been a project that has been, I think, different things that he has done in his career as an actor, and it's been great. I think it's a great match, you know, embodying young Bond and working with him has been fantastic.
What the?
The title sequence is such an iconic bit of Bond, and I knew that task would come around. So I had a folder, and I'd put like an idea, or like I'd see an image or something would be in the game. And actually at the very, very beginning, like at the very genesis of the project, we were having like a brainstorm of like, what do you do then? Like slide 4 or something just said Lana Del Rey on it. And then that just kind of like, time goes by and whatever. And then lo and behold, like 5-6 years later, there's the song. Crazy.
It's the first light of day when you wake. Is it real or is it fake?
I was fortunate enough to be on a Zoom call waiting for Lana Del Rey to join the join the call, and I was in a call with David Arnold. So crazy, and it was a great conversation. We got around Fate and Destiny Youth, all those things, and they then went off and did the most incredible song. So when the song kind of existed, it was kind of a case of trying to inject it with just enough of the themes of the story and just enough foreshadowing. Because with these things, very often when you've seen the film, when you see the title sequence again, you go, oh, that's why it was like that. But it was a great pleasure to work on something as iconic. It's so cool.
Bond, it's all about narrative, and narrative drives everything, while for Hitman, it's really the sandbox aspect that drives everything. So it's really different. We've done a lot of work making the combat really different. Combat has been really something we focused on to make it more true to the IP, to the franchise.
So I think the biggest difference is in Hitman, combat has always been a last resort. When it happens, it's messy, or it's normally used like to fire a single shot, and you normally try and avoid it. And if you get into it, it's some fun chaos, and then it kind of comes to a quick end. In Bond, combat is a choice. It's a fully viable approach, and so it's really important to us that we elevated it to the level where it could stand on its own, and it was something that players really wanted to interact with, had a lot more depth, and that it was very stylish as well because it's Bond, right? So we needed to add some of that signature charm that may not be the most professional thing in the world, but has this kind of very specific character to it that we're trying to bring forward, where he is a little cheeky and very creative in how he fights. Overall, our approach came from kind of seeing the through lines that were going through all of the Bond media. In combat, that was this idea of improvisation and creativity. Him doing the unexpected, him improvising in the middle of a fight. We had to capture that and make sure the player felt like they could do the same thing. This kind of throwing mechanic that you've seen in the game of finding stuff and just kind of lobbing it, that actually was inspired by some of the earlier movies. I think it was in Thunderball. We saw a reference from that. And then we've got a lot of stuff from the Daniel Craig era we've taken because it's got really nicely choreographed fight scenes. So we've got a move where Bond can grab someone and kind of charge off a ledge with them. It's taken from No Time to Die. We saw that in an action sequence, and we were like, we got to get that in the game, man. And it was a lot of effort, and it took a lot of convincing, but we got it in there because we saw it. We're like, we've got to get that in. So a lot of the stuff like the gun flip, you can find almost that exact animation in a Daniel Craig movie if you go looking. In fact, I think it's in Skyfall. And so we lift a lot of stuff directly from the movies. And then for our Bond, looking at his character, we knew that we needed a little more messy in there because he's earlier on in his career. So we brought in a lot of MMA and boxing, the kind of stuff that you might learn on the street rather than through an agency like MI6, right? So less military, less precise. And that helps also giving him a bit of signature style. We have a system called Instinct, and you gain Instinct a number of ways. So you can gain it through doing particular actions in stealth or generally being successful. So you can even gain it in combat. And you can spend it in a couple of ways. You can use it to kind of slow down, have time to think in the middle of a combat encounter. It might help you pull off the shot that saves your life. That's our way of kind of representing Bond's ability to think very fast in the moment. So it allows you to pull off stuff that may seem, borderline superhuman because you're that switched on and you're able to analyze things quite so quickly. But you can also, like say, spend it on the bluff mechanic. So there is a kind of resource that you refill. But for example, if you find a piece of intel, that will give you some instinct that you can use to bluff enemies. So you can't use it. You just walk up to every enemy and talk your way through. You have to kind of manage it and decide where you want to use this power.
Oi, have you seen a woman? One of the suspects. I saw her crawl out a window and followed her this way.
Oh, crap. Hope she didn't slip past me. Damien will have my head.
Yeah, and mine. I'm going to take a look around. You stay here.
So there's two main ways to use the bluffing system. One is you're kind of discovered in stealth. So, you're hiding behind a desk and someone comes up and, sees you. You can quickly stand up and confront them. And then you can give them an excuse. So you can stand up and say, oh, I'm IT. I was just checking the printer or something like this. And because of Bond's sheer charisma, they believe you, right? But you can also use it actively. So you might be going through the level and see a room full of enemies and think, it's looking pretty nasty, maybe quite hard to sneak through. So you can turn around and use a similar excuse. You can also kind of find information that helps you do this. So you might find the name of some guy who's head of the guards, and then you'll walk into the room and that helps give you credence. So you walk in the room and say like, oh yeah, I know Mark, he told me to come through here. And they're like, oh, okay, come on through. You know, Mark, this stuff works in real life as well, right? Social engineering is a real thing. So we've brought that aspect into the game.
Can I help you? I'm with the press. Need to get upstairs for the main event. Snap some pics. Head on up. Pretty quiet up there now, save for a few of Webb's folk. Thanks, gents.
And it's quite a fun thing to play around with. I think that there'll be a category of players that will just try and find all the dialogue lines, and there's a lot of them. So I think that play style is very valid.
What? Ken Banks, penetration tester. I need to have a stern word with your manager.
Good to have you on the team.
James Bond has a lot of gadgets, and he needs to use them.
We've already shown kind of the laser watch and the dart phone and the ability to hack from the watch. We have a few more. We have the smoke device, which is like a lighter you can use to create a cloud of smoke to help you kind of disappear if you wanted. I use it quite often in combat. If there's a bunch of guys with guns shooting me from the side, I'll just cut off that line of sight entirely while I go fight someone in front of me. Then we've got the ear pods that you can use like mines. They're one of the ones that I'm really excited to see players get creative with. I think there's going to be some crazy stuff done with them because you can use them in a bunch of different ways and they interact with set pieces that we've put in the level and stuff like that. So you'll be able to do a lot. And then we also have the shockwave camera that you can use to put enemies into our stumble system, which means that they'll kind of fall backwards and interact in the environment. They might roll over something, they might trigger something to fall. So you can use that in a bunch of fun ways in combat as well. We looked at everything. So we went right the way back to the books, and we've lifted a lot of stuff about the character from the books. People have noticed the scar on the face and this kind of stuff.
Bond is a bullet without a target. Let's give him one.
By the very nature of making games, you're handcrafting everything. Everyone who's handcrafting these things know that they're making a James Bond game, meaning every time they handcraft something, they go, is there an angle we could put on this? Is there a spin we could put on this thing to make it more Bond? And if anything, it's almost curating, like when it's like not like sometimes we also need focus to be on the story that we're telling, but with Q Branch in particular, that's where we maybe let loose a little bit more than usual because it is really like the Hogwarts of Bond, right? You walk in there and go, wow.
I would encourage that people walk around QLab. I think that's all I'll say on that. Like, have a look around, see what you find. I'm sure there's lots of cool stuff there.
I like it. Don't change a thing.
We keep adding content to Hitman. It's a game that has been around now for a decade, and every month we keep adding things like Le Chiffre is back into the game at the moment. But I think what is important is who is IO, what we're doing, and our players can expect us continuing to add a lot of great things for the player to experience with Tac Sim.
It has a hub from which you can launch different parts of the game and we remix them. So you might, in the campaign, go through a space that doesn't have a combat encounter, for example, and then in Tac Sim, we take you back there, but now it's full-on combat. Or maybe when you go through it in the campaign, you can't do a certain thing that you want to do, or there's no guns in that room or something like that. In Tac Sim, we can rework it. And then we can also just take a piece of the game that's already there and apply a challenge or a limitation on top of it and say, okay, can you get through this encounter in stealth? Can you get through this encounter without ever firing a gun? We can put pretty crazy challenges in there for really hardcore players to try and achieve. And then we can produce more content for that post-launch as well.
We care a lot about player feedback, listening, and trying to support our player base and accelerate them with new content. And that's very important. I don't think we will ever say it's done. We will celebrate, feedback from the player, feedback from the critics, So yes, definitely we'll continue to create more content. I think the idea is really also understand what resonates with the players and what doesn't, and adapt what we're doing around that. This is something we've done very successfully with Hitman, is making sure we listen to what the player are saying and make sure we delivering on what they want.
Listen, we need to get you out of here. The hostiles plan to blow up the camp.
So at the moment, we're starting to see some of the press preview comments and reading those articles, which are extremely positive, validating what we're doing and what we've done. It's a great feeling. I mean, it's very important for our studio. This game is our new game, and we've been, working very hard on this project for a few years, and it's so exciting.
You work in secrecy for so long on these kind of projects, so to have it actually out there and people see it, it's just incredibly exciting. So yeah, I think a lot of people in the office are looking at everything, and it's just really good to hear. It's just it's such a relief because you don't know how this stuff is going to be interpreted, but we're really passionate about what we're making, and we're really excited for players to get their hands on it. And it's nice that the press was also excited to get their hands on it, and they've had a great time playing it. So now we just gotta get it out to everyone.
Well, this was going to be my next question. So on launch day or review embargo day, are you similarly refreshing and reading everything, or
Yep.
is it?
Yeah. We'll be reading everything. I mean, I think it's really important. I mean, even just from a professional perspective, if there are things that people don't like, you want to find them and see what you can do about them, or you want to learn from this as well. So feedback is so important to us. So we're always really keen to see how people respond to it. It's not just the good stuff, but also the bad stuff is really important to us to take a look at.
This is very important for us. We will have eyes on all the feedback and make sure we're addressing any issue, if any issue happens, as swiftly as possible.
Pull down the blinds, put the kids to bed if you have any, and just really immerse yourself. That's what we designed it for, luxury entertainment, if you will.
007 First Light is coming out on the 27th of May. You can get 24 hours early access if you pre-order.
It will be available on Xbox, PlayStation, PC, and in the summer on Switch 2. It's really exciting time for us. And I hope everybody will enjoy, playing the game, discovering this great narrative story we built. And I'm looking forward to read the feedback.
And if you do get caught, we will deny ever having heard of you. How does that sound?
When do I start?